Recap, Tales of Herding Gods, Chapter Fauntree 7. Chapter Translator, Ninetales. Editor, Dark Gem. Village Chief followed that man onward, his steps echoing across the somber streets of Fengdu City. Along the road, he saw the lingering scars of a fierce battle, divine forces and demonic spirits still lingering in formation, encircling rows of paper soldiers and paper horses. The sight stirred confusion in his heart, for such strange troops and remnants of war seemed out of place in this eerie city. Fengdu has just endured a great war, the man said calmly as they walked. King Yama himself led us into battle against the forces of Yudu, but this is nothing unusual. Such wars have happened many times before. This time, however, it began when Yudu launched an invasion. The world outside the great ruins has long been watched by them, and they sensed that the eternal peace calamity was nearing eruption. They came prepared to harvest the souls of the living, but we forced them back. Village Chief stood stunned. A war between Fengdu and Yudu? He had never imagined that such a terrifying conflict had unfolded within the shadow-shrouded lands of the great ruins. Two worlds had clashed in battle, yet the great ruins themselves remained silent and peaceful. Not a trace of upheaval could be felt from the outside world. The calm surface hid a storm of unimaginable scale. Such a thing was utterly inconceivable. And when he heard the words eternal peace calamity and collecting souls, spoken so casually by his master, an even deeper chill crept into his bones. It was not the cold that made him shudder. Those few words alone carried enough hidden meaning to send his thoughts spiraling into an abyss of speculation. If that revelation was not shocking enough, he had also learned that Fengdu and Yudu had clashed countless times before. This meant that the world concealed countless secrets still hidden from mortal eyes. Soon they arrived before a mansion. The man stepped forward and knocked on the door. When the elder inside opened it, he grinned broadly and said, "Old fart, I've brought your disciple's disciple to see you. Good disciple, come and greet your grandmaster." Village Chief instantly kicked him squarely in the butt and groin before snapping in anger. "How dare you speak to my grandmaster in such a manner? My grandmaster is still your master, yet you show not the slightest bit of respect." His master flew into a rage. "He tricked me into taking this cursed position," he roared. "Do you know how much suffering I endured because of it? My family was torn apart, my friends died one after another. Calling him an old fart is already me showing restraint, and besides, I am your master. Where is your respect for me? Your temper has grown bold, hasn't it? You need a proper beating." "Stop arguing," the elder barked in irritation. "All of us are human emperors, yet every time we meet, we end up quarreling like fools. Come with me, I'll bring you to meet my master. That old scumbag will certainly be delighted to see that the lot of you have died as well." Village Chief and the tall, sturdy old man both frowned slightly. Village Chief said, "Grandmaster, even if he is your master, he is also my great-grandmaster. Calling him an old scumbag seems rather disrespectful, does it not?" The elder snorted coldly. "That old scumbag deceived me into becoming the human emperor and ruined my life's enjoyment. If he weren't already dead, I would have beaten him to death with my own hands. Come, I will take you to see him." Village Chief and the tall, sturdy man exchanged helpless looks. The master brushed the dust from his clothes and leaned close, lowering his voice. "Good disciple, have you already passed down the position of human emperor?" Village Chief nodded. The tall, sturdy man let out a trembling breath. "After your disciple dies, he will certainly come here looking for you, to curse you and beat you senseless for ruining his life." Village Chief suddenly felt uneasy. He shook his head vigorously. "Mu'er is a good child. He would never do such a thing. Mu'er is the most filial." The tall and sturdy man sneered. "I thought that after I died you would throw yourself into my arms weeping, yet the first thing you did when you saw me was kick me. If you behave like this, what kind of disciple do you think you raised? Just wait until he dies and beats you senseless. By the way, have you ever lied to him before?" Village Chief's face immediately darkened. "I told him he possessed an overlord body," he muttered quietly. "Because of that, he worked very hard." "What overlord body?" The elder turned his head back, curiosity flickering across his face. Village Chief explained the entire story. When he finished speaking, the two devils stood frozen in shock. For a long time they could not speak. Eventually, they slowly raised their thumbs toward Village Chief. "You are definitely doomed," the two of them repeated again and again. "That lie is too vicious. You are absolutely doomed. Even though we also lied to our disciples, we never lied this terribly. You went too far. You made him live his entire life inside a gigantic lie. When he dies, he won't just kick you and call you an old fart." Village Chief's face turned as black as charcoal. He tried to comfort himself. "Muir would never do that. He would never. Muir is the most filial." "You were also very filial back then," the tall man said coldly. "You were the most filial disciple I ever had. Yet the moment you saw me again, you kicked me straight off the bridge. Shut up, old bastard!" Meanwhile, far away from Fangdu, the Divine Flood Dragon King pursued the trail of the wounded god all the way to the god-broken mountain range. Qin endured the weakness gnawing at his body as he refined spirit pills to heal the Dragon King's injuries. Driving the moon ship had drained him terribly. The moon itself had once been a divine treasure forged by God Ziqing. But now the celestial moon had already gone dark and extinguished, and it could no longer provide the vast energy the moon ship required. To steer the ship, Qin had been forced to burn his own life force. When he had once retrieved a new sun for the Sun Herders, he had already spent a tremendous amount of his lifespan. Only by soaking himself within the pond of pure yang had he barely recovered. Now, after controlling the moonship again, his vitality had been drained even further. Unfortunately, the moonship had suffered far more damage than the sunship. Worse still, the pond of pure yin had completely dried up. There was no longer any way to replenish his life force quickly. He could only rely on slow recovery through his own cultivation. But Qin had no time for such luxury. If he allowed the wounded god to escape, the consequences would be catastrophic. Thus, he could only endure the strain and continue the pursuit. This god from high heavens didn't travel along surging river. The corners of Qin eyes tightened as a heavy feeling sank into his chest. If the god had chosen the surging river route, Qin could have used Dragon King to block his path. Combined with Qin own battle power and the strength of the Divine Flood Dragon King, they would have stood a good chance of killing the god. But since the god had chosen another route, even if the Dragon King managed to catch him, it remained uncertain whether he could defeat such a powerful divine opponent. "If I borrow the strength of the flood dragons through the dragon-rearing sovereign's secrets of dragon control, perhaps I could still fight." Qin glanced behind him. Several flood dragons followed beside the dragon Qilin. Yet hesitation lingered in his heart. A life-and-death battle would inevitably lead to casualties among the flood dragons. If they died or were severely injured, Qin would lose even the ability to defend himself. The god-broken mountain range lay 3,000 to 4,000 miles away at the edge of the great ruins. Even from afar, Qin could already see the fierce battle unfolding there. Terrifying shockwaves rolled through the air again and again as divine arts and weapons clashed violently. From the distance he could faintly see flashes of Butcher's blade light. Mute's enormous furnace burned like a blazing sun, dyeing the heavens crimson red. Without Village Chief's overwhelming presence, without Butcher, King Yi, and Mute, how many people would still remain alive? Village Chief. A sharp pain stabbed Qin heart. He forced himself to cast aside those distracting thoughts and focused once more on refining spirit pills to heal the Divine Flood Dragon King. The sky ahead gradually turned pale. Soon the sun rose beyond the horizon, its first rays illuminating the battlefield. Qin heart sank. The god had already crossed into the territory of Eternal Peace Empire. Across the empire stood countless meteorological weapons. If the god managed to locate even one of them, he could unleash unimaginable destruction. Hundreds of millions of lives would be lost. After the Dragon King's injuries improved, their speed increased once more. Examining the god's footprints along the way, the Dragon King suddenly cried out with delight. "Your Majesty, the god's injuries are worsening. His speed is slowing down. We will catch him soon." Qin finally relaxed slightly. "Continue pursuing him boldly. His wounds are extremely severe. Otherwise he would have concealed his trail completely." The Divine Flood Dragon King felt much more confident. Although his strength was tremendous, his courage was far inferior even to the Dragon Qilin. Fear constantly lingered in his heart whenever danger appeared. They crossed 3,000 miles of eternal peace territory. The god's pace slowed, more and more. Blood stains appeared along the ground where he stepped, and wherever the divine blood touched the soil, the surrounding grass and flowers grew wildly. It was clear that the god's injuries had erupted beyond his control. Even the divine blood within his body could no longer be restrained. Then suddenly, all traces vanished. The divine blood disappeared. Even the footprints were gone. He realized we were chasing him and hid his trail. The divine flood dragon king sniffed the air anxiously, but no scent remained. His body suddenly trembled. In the next instant, his massive form dissolved into a flood of water, splitting into countless water dragons that shot outward in every direction to search. Si Yunxiang rose into the sky and scanned the land below. "There is a city ahead," she said. "That should be Purple Chased City to the south of us. Could the god have gone there?" Qinmu attempted to rise from the dragon's back, but the moment he stood, his legs trembled violently, and he nearly collapsed to his knees. Panting heavily, he said, "Purple Chased City? Does our sacred cult hold any influence there?" "Yes," Si Yunxiang replied. "The border region near Purple Chased City faces the Great Ruins. The climate there remains spring-like throughout the year, making it perfect for raising strange beasts. The Hall Master of 10,000 Beasts Hall oversees operations there. It is a vast enterprise. Entire mountains are used for breeding beasts before they are sold to the imperial court for the military." Si Yunxiang came from the Sai family, which controlled the financial power of the Heavenly Saint cult. She was extremely knowledgeable in such matters. 10,000 Beasts Hall is one of the most important sources of wealth for our sacred cult. Qinmu let out a breath of relief. "Then we shall go to Purple Chased City. Summon the Hall Master of 10,000 Beasts Hall to meet me. Since that god has entered eternal peace, he has stepped into the territory of our sacred cult. If he wishes to hide, how could he escape the eyes and ears of our cult?" Si Yunxiang urged the dragon Qilin forward and rushed toward Purple Chased City. Meanwhile, Qinmu commanded the flood dragons to continue searching the surrounding lands, which slowed his progress somewhat. Yet even after careful searching, no trace of the god could be found. Some time later they arrived at the outskirts of Purple Chased City. Before Qinmu even entered the city, he saw a burly man hurrying over behind Si Yunxiang. The man bowed respectfully. Qinmu waved his hand. "Hallmaster, do you have any method to locate an injured god?" "Does Cultmaster possess any of his clothing?" the 10,000 Beasts Hallmaster asked. "No," Qinmu replied. "However, I did obtain some of his divine blood." He took out a small jade bottle. "Can this be used?" 10,000 Beasts Hallmaster sighed in relief and gave a sharp whistle. Immediately a pack of large black dogs sprinted toward them. Their waists, necks and legs were slim and powerful, granting them astonishing speed. These are hybrids of the heavenly dogs from the Great Ruins and ordinary hounds. They are exceptional trackers. 10,000 Beasts Hallmaster uncorked the jade bottle and allowed the dogs to sniff the divine blood. The pack instantly leapt forward like arrows and raced away. Moments later the ground trembled violently. Several enormous creatures burst from the soil. They were gigantic rats resembling porcupines, yet far larger than wild boars. 10,000 Beasts Hallmaster let them smell the divine blood as well. Immediately they plunged back underground, tunneling through the earth in search of their quarry. Sharp cries echoed from the sky. Several massive birds descended from above. Even before they touched the ground, the wind from their wings sent dust spiraling into the air. Soon a group of golden eagles landed before them, each with a wingspan stretching several yards. After sniffing the divine blood, they spread their wings and soared back into the sky. "Cultmaster," 10,000 Beasts Hallmaster said, "I must also let the blood dragon eels in the river smell the blood. They are excellent trackers beneath the water." "Hallmaster is truly thorough," Qinmu praised. They entered Purple Chased City. As they walked, Qinmu asked, "Have there been any unusual occurrences nearby recently? For instance, stone statues emerging from the ground or strange treasures appearing?" "Yes," 10,000 Beasts Hallmaster replied. "The incident occurred right here in the city. About 10 days ago, the famous fragrance well suddenly stopped producing water. The earth shook violently, and from within the well emerged a gigantic gourd. 15 yards tall and plated with gold. Numerous runes cover its surface, though I could not understand them. The city magistrate sealed off the area around Fragrance Well and forbade anyone from approaching. He claimed it was an imperial decree. Chinmu's heart began pounding rapidly. Take me there at once. They hurried toward Fragrance Well. 10,000 Beasts Hall. Master smiled as he gestured ahead. Just up ahead is Fragrance Well. Eh? In the sky above them, the golden eagles circled endlessly. Across the streets, the black dogs sprinted wildly toward Fragrance Well. Even beneath the ground, tremors spread as the giant rats surfaced from time to time. Sniffing the air, Chinmu's heart leapt into his throat. The god from high heavens was hiding within the city, very close to Fragrance Well. Order everyone to evacuate Purple Chased City immediately. Translator Ninetales, Editor Dark Gem, 1000 Beasts Hall. Master's heart tightened as if gripped by an unseen claw, and he hurried forward to report the matter to the magistrate. Chinmu tilted his head slightly and reached out to stop him. Wait a moment. There is no need to make everyone evacuate. 10,000 Beasts Hall Master was momentarily taken aback, but Hu Ling'e and Si Yunxiang immediately grasped the meaning behind Chinmu's words. There is no point in letting them leave. Once the meteorological weapon is activated, no one will be able to escape. Even if they flee all the way to the capital, they still won't evade the explosion. Such a weapon can traverse thousands of miles in the blink of an eye. If its power is fully unleashed, it could likely envelop the entire Eternal Peace Empire beneath its shadow. A chill crept down the spine of 10,000 Beasts Hall Master. They were tens of thousands of miles away from the capital. Yet even if they fled that distance, escape would still be impossible. Just what kind of terrifying weapon was that massive bottle gourd within Fragrance Well? Chinmu adjusted his shirt and strode calmly toward Fragrance Well. Earlier he had moved in haste, but now his steps were steady and relaxed. Do not allow the people of the city to leave. Si Yunxiang was slightly stunned. The people in this city are the god's hostages. If we release them, he will have no hostages left and will immediately activate the bottle gourd, unleashing the natural calamity. Chinmu whispered quietly. Si Yunxiang could not help but shiver as she looked at him. The might of the meteorological weapons was simply too overwhelming. They had already witnessed it firsthand within Granny Sai's manor. Not even 1% of the earthquake cauldron's true power had been released. Yet its tremors had injured the Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor, Village Chief, and the other masters present. The lingering aftershock had even travelled several hundred miles away, shaking mountains and valleys alike. If the people of the city remained here, they would stand at the very heart of the explosion. In that case, if death came, their suffering would be brief. Cough, cough, the god coughed twice. This was not an act. His body was truly weakened. His coughing echoed from near Fragrance. Well, followed by a sneering voice. Little thing, you chased me all the way here, yet aren't you afraid that I will activate this 5 Thunderpot? 5 Thunderpot. Chinmu walked toward Fragrance Well and ascended the stone steps. The Divine Flood Dragon King followed closely behind him as Chinmu smiled faintly. So this treasure is named the 5 Thunderpot? May I ask which 5 thunders reside within it? The Divine Flood Dragon King surveyed the courtyard ahead and frowned slightly. With a shake of his body, his form instantly shrank, transforming into a young man clad in sapphire blue robes. His features carried a fierce air, yet he was not unpleasant to behold. The dragon Qilin also shook its body and attempted to suck in its belly, but it popped out again with a boing. Hu Ling'e immediately covered her face in embarrassment and said, Fatty dragon, don't call me Sister Ling'e anymore. This is far too embarrassing. The other flood dragons bared their fangs and waved their claws while shouting Maha Maha. They also shook their bodies, yet none of them transformed into humans. Instead, they merely sucked in their bellies before letting them spring out again with a boing. These fellows have all grown quite fat after following young master. Their little bellies are all sticking out. Hu Ling'e surveyed the dragons with a solemn expression and thought to herself, I must remind young master to control their diet from now on. The flood dragons had never learned the art of transformation before, dragon rearing. Sovereign had raised them solely as war beasts, and never regarded them as disciples. Thus he had never taught them human speech either. Qin Mu led everyone up the steps. The courtyard before them revealed itself to be vast, resembling the grounds of a great manor. At its centre stood the renowned fragrance well of Purple Chaste City. This place was a celebrated historical site. According to legend, the land here had once been barren. A group of refugees fleeing from soldiers had arrived here, yet found no water and perished from thirst. The survivors prayed desperately to the heavens, and a miracle occurred. The earth swirled and cracked open, revealing a deep well whose waters emitted a delightful fragrance. Thus it was named Fragrance Well. Around it stood a courtyard built from sturdy bricks. Guards had been stationed here in tight formations, most of them divine arts practitioners. 3 layers of defense lay within, and 3 layers outside. Yet at this moment, all those practitioners were sprawled across the ground in slumber, none remaining awake. It was obvious that this was the work of the god. 5 Thunder. In truth are classified by directions, north, south, east, west, and the centre, and together they form 5 immense thunderclouds. Qin Mu stepped into the courtyard and discovered that Fragrance Well itself had vanished. It had been shattered from within by an enormous treasure that burst upward from the depths. It resembled a bottle gourd in shape, yet seemed carved from green jade. It stood roughly 15 yards tall, its surface etched with runes that resembled clouds yet were not clouds, dragons yet not dragons, lightning yet not lightning. Beneath the massive gourd sat a horned man who appeared utterly miserable. His body was riddled with wounds, and several broken bones protruded from his flesh in gruesome fashion. One of his legs was broken as well, leaving a bloody mess. The bones were shattered, and much of the flesh on the sole had already rotted away. Qin Mu could not help but feel a trace of sympathy and asked with concern, "How severe are brother's injuries? You are the one who smashed me like that, so what do you think?" The one-horned man glanced at him coldly, his voice devoid of courtesy. His injuries had been inflicted when Qin Mu smashed him with a broken moon, crippling him completely. Yet Qin Mu had not stopped there. He had even chased him all the way to the city, only to now feign politeness and inquire about his condition. Qin Mu flushed slightly with embarrassment and revealed an apologetic smile. A physician treats his patients as parents treat their child. To be honest, this little brother has studied the healing arts and is known as a divine physician with sacred hands. I am most compassionate and frequently treat the injured, saving lives wherever I go. When I saw brother's injuries, my compassion could not help but stir. If brother can trust me—" "I cannot," the one-horned god sneered. "Say no more. This 5 Thunderpot contains 5 thunderclouds that may not be vast, yet they can still cover the entire territory of the Eternal Peace Empire. Within those clouds lie fire bell divine weapons. With a single chime, the entire empire will be drowned beneath lightning. You chased me all the way here. Aren't you afraid that I will activate the 5 Thunderpot?" Qin Mu stepped forward and leaned casually against the 5 Thunderpot. Smiling, he said, "How could I not be afraid? Yet if I had not pursued you, would you not still activate the 5 Thunderpot? Not only that, you would also activate the other meteorological weapons. The 5 Thunderpot alone might not wipe out every person in Eternal Peace, but if all the meteorological weapons are triggered together, that would bring about true catastrophe. Ah, by the way, how should I address senior brother?" The one-horned god glanced at the young man beside Qin Mu. It was the divine Flood Dragon King who spoke up. "Your Majesty, he is God Bai Shi of High Heavens." "Senior brother Bai Shi," Qin Mu said solemnly, "since you have not activated the 5 Thunderpot immediately, that means there is still room for negotiation. In that case, shall we discuss matters?" God Bai Shi's eyes were slightly farther apart than ordinary, and though small, they were round. "What do you propose?" "You should travel to the great ruins and turn yourself into a stone statue. In that way you will live," Qin Mu said with a smile. God Bai Shi burst into loud laughter, his voice resounding like a great bell. He sneered. "A brat like you expects me to willingly become a stone statue? I am a god of high heavens. If I agreed to such terms with you, would I not become the laughingstock of the world?" Qin Mu refined a furnace of spirit pills to heal himself and replenish his life force. Then what does Senior Brother propose? I will activate the 5 Thunder Pot, and you will let me leave. In return, I will not touch the other meteorological weapons. Qin swallowed the spirit pills and replied weakly, That cannot be done. God Baishi's tiny eyes narrowed. Do not force me onto the road of no return. If I fail the mission entrusted to me by the high gods, I will not survive. Either you allow me to activate the 5 Thunder Pot and depart, or I will activate it and fight you to the death. Even if I die, I will drag you all down with me. Qin shook his head. You cannot drag any of us down. Baishi burst into laughter. Meanwhile, Qin produced the true dragon's nest and retrieved the god's limbs he had stolen from Xing'an. He assembled them together, forming the body of a 4-headed, many-armed devil god. Senior Brother Baishi, I possess means of self-preservation. I am skilled in teleportation arts and versed in summoning techniques. This body has been prepared for an old friend of mine. If we cannot reach an agreement, I will summon him from the Dutian world. There will be no need to discuss protection. Killing you would be effortless for him. God Baishi's gaze settled upon the 4-headed and many-armed body, and his eyes narrowed further. You think to frighten me. How could you possibly know any devil god? Qin smiled faintly and produced a white bone altar along with a wooden sculpture of a devil god. Executing the ghost-transferring god-dispatching runes command, he cast the spell upon the altar. Soon, sinister winds rose in waves as devil ki surged. Numerous runes on the wooden sculpture began to glow. God Baishi's expression shifted slightly. Stop! Cease the summoning! I believe you! Qin halted immediately and secretly breathed a sigh of relief. If he had continued, even if he reached Dutian Devil King, that fellow might not even respond. Dutian Devil King bore heavy burdens and possessed timid courage. Ever since leaving, he had never contacted Qin again. He had even declared that he would never return to his original world. If Dutian Devil King learned that 100 god statues and terrifying meteorological weapons had appeared within Eternal Peace Empire, he would definitely not dare reveal himself. Qin removed the wooden sculpture and placed the assembled body upon the altar with a smile. Now, can we discuss matters? God Baishi's face shifted between light and shadow. After pondering for a moment, he gritted his teeth. I have family in high heavens. If I fail this mission, my entire race will be exterminated. I must return to high heavens and bring them away. Your Majesty, do not believe him, the divine Flood Dragon King said quietly. It is true that he has a race in high heavens, but high heavens is not a place one can enter or leave freely. There is a receiving official there. Without that official's permission, no one may come or go. Qin smiled faintly. God Baishi's expression changed drastically, and he sneered. How did Dragon-rearing Sovereign end up raising a traitor like you? The divine Flood Dragon King sneered back. If Dragon Sovereign had not been subdued by his majesty, why would I have turned traitor? God Baishi was stunned. Dragon-rearing Sovereign was subdued by him? Just like you, Dragon-rearing Sovereign was gravely injured by me and had no choice but to submit in the end, Qin said warmly. My conditions were quite generous. He now serves as the Dragon King of Surging River. Each year, those who drown or leap into the river become his meals, so he never lacks for food. Furthermore, along the river stand more than 100 Dragon King temples of varying sizes, all worshipping him. He enjoys endless incense offerings and lives in great comfort. God Baishi laughed in anger. Yet you want me to turn into a stone statue. I dare not accept such humiliation. Am I inferior to that dragon-raising scoundrel? Senior Brother Baishi, what conditions do you require? Speak them openly. If I can satisfy them, I will not be stingy. It is only that activating the 5 Thunder Pot is too dangerous. Once that treasure is triggered, either you or I will certainly die, Qin said sincerely. God Baishi muttered to himself, unable to make up his mind. Qin gaze flickered as he glanced toward the 5 Thunder Pot. The massive jade gourd truly filled him with dread, so he cautiously probed. How about this? Can you wait a few days? If the gods of your high heavens succeed and activate the other meteorological weapons, I will turn around and leave, allowing you to activate the 5 Thunder Pot. I will return to the great ruins and no longer involve myself in worldly affairs, allowing the true gods to descend and erase the world. But if you receive no news of the other meteorological weapons being activated, then you and I shall discuss matters again. What do you think?" God Bai Shi clenched his teeth and said resolutely, "Very well." Qin laughed heartily, though he soon coughed and gasped for breath. "Senior brother, this little brother's body is not in good condition, so I will take my leave first." God Bai Shi was astonished and thought to himself, "This brat is truly naive to leave me here alone. If the senior brothers of High Heavens succeed in activating the other meteorological weapons, then it will not matter whether I activate the 5 Thunderpot or not. But if they fail, it will mean they are all dead, and submitting will not harm me." As Qin walked out of the courtyard, his face suddenly darkened. Startling Si Yunxiang and the others, his expression had changed with frightening speed. "Saintess Xiang, inform the Emperor to bring the Sunshot Divine Cannon here," Qin said ruthlessly. "I will also write a prescription. Saintess, you must help me gather the herbs. I intend to refine a poison. Furthermore, summon every expert skilled in the 5 demons transferring technique. We will send the 5 Thunderpot as far away as possible." Si Yunxiang hesitated for a moment before asking carefully, "Cultmaster, is it truly wise to do this?" "We must prepare for the worst," Qin said coldly. "If matters turn sour, we will move the 5 Thunderpot away and kill him."